In the year 37 AD, a wave of collective relief washed over the Roman Empire. The dark, paranoid reign of Tiberius was over, and a new emperor, Gaius Caesar Augustus Germanicus, had ascended to the throne. He was the son of the beloved general Germanicus, and the people wept with joy in the streets, believing a savior had arrived. They nicknamed him Caligula, Little Boots, a fond reminder of the miniature soldier uniform he wore as a child in his father's army camps. But this beloved son of Rome, within 4 short years, would force the city's most powerful men to watch as he assaulted their wives, desecrated the most sacred religious vows, and tried to make his horse a consul. The story of Caligula is not merely a tale of insanity, it is a chilling exploration of a terrifying truth. What happens when a mortal man is given the power of a god and has the appetites of a monster? We are about to uncover how absolute power does not just corrupt, it consumes until nothing is left but ruins. Before we delve into the heart of this darkness, let me ask you, have you ever wondered where the true boundary lies between a powerful leader and a tyrant? What is the breaking point? The first illusion to shatter was the sanctity of Caligula's own family. To a Roman, the family unit, the domus, was the bedrock of society, yet Caligula treated his own bloodline as a collection of possessions. His 3 sisters, Agrippina, Drusilla, and Julia Livilla, were not spared his tyranny, they were central to it. Ancient historians Suetonius and Cassius Dio alleged that he engaged in incestuous relationships with all of them, but his obsession with Drusilla was the most profound and public. He paraded her at public banquets, not as a sister, but as a consort, seating her beside him in the position traditionally reserved for a wife. This was not a private deviance hidden behind palace walls, it was a public declaration. He was showing the Roman elite that the most fundamental laws of nature and society did not apply to him. When Drusilla died suddenly, Caligula's reaction was not that of a grieving brother, but a distraught widower. He plunged the entire empire into a period of public mourning, a legal act reserved only for the death of an emperor's direct family, and had her deified, commanding that she be worshipped as a goddess. This single act was a masterstroke of psychological terror. He had forced Rome not only to witness his taboo, but to kneel and pray to it. But if Caligula could so easily break the bonds of his own blood, the bonds holding the rest of Roman society together stood no chance. His next target was the Roman Senate. These were the most powerful men in the empire, men who believed their lineage and honor were untouchable. Caligula taught them otherwise in the most intimate way possible. The Senate chamber, once a symbol of republican dignity, became a theater for his cruelty. He would interrupt state affairs to openly critique the senators' wives, sometimes summoning them to his private chambers directly from their husbands' sides. A senator would be forced to sit frozen-faced as his wife was led away. Hours might pass. When she returned, pale and silent, her husband was expected to continue the day's business as if nothing had occurred, perhaps even thanking the emperor for his attention. This was not simply lust, it was a calculated political weapon. In Roman culture, a man's authority was tied to his control over his household. By violating a senator's wife, Caligula was demonstrating in the most visceral way imaginable that he owned not just their political careers, but their homes, their honor, and their very identities. At lavish banquets, this performance of domination was amplified. He would reportedly inspect the wives of noble guests like livestock, drag his choice away mid-feast, and return to the table to loudly announce a detailed critique of her performance in bed, all while her husband was forced to listen. To resist meant death, to endure meant a public stripping of one's soul. He had discovered a chilling truth: to control the body is to conquer the spirit. This campaign against Roman dignity soon required a headquarters, and so Caligula transformed sections of the imperial palace on Palatine Hill, the very symbol of Roman authority, into a fully functioning high-class brothel. But this was no ordinary establishment. The women forced to work there were not common prostitutes. They were the wives and daughters of senators and respected noblemen. Caligula became the empire's pimp-in-chief, profiting from the humiliation of the very families meant to govern alongside him. He sent out official invitations to men of rank, ordering them to attend and spend their money. The palace, once a place of law and order, became a marketplace where the currency was not coin, but the shattered dignity of Rome's elite. The symbolism was terrifying and deliberate. The heart of the empire was now a house of shame, and its master was the emperor himself. But Caligula's ambition was greater than mere earthly power. He sought to become a god, and he made Rome his stage. He declared himself a living deity, Jupiter incarnate, and ordered temples built in his honor. This divine fantasy became another tool of sexual tyranny. He targeted the Vestal virgins, priestesses sworn to 30 years of chastity and tasked with guarding the sacred flame of Rome. To violate a Vestal was among the gravest sins in Rome, yet for Caligula it became a weapon. By desecrating sacred vows, he sought not pleasure but proof of his power over gods and men. Rituals turned into grotesque spectacles where worship and perversion blended, faith bent to his will. Within the palace, terror reigned, slaves lived in silence, servants summoned at night knowing resistance meant torture and obedience meant lifelong fear. Their cries died in marble halls where senators whispered praise, the elite trembled in gilded cages of power, the powerless in chains of servitude. At the games, he sat before thousands, playing with noblewomen as if the empire were his toy. A gesture, a cruel whisper, a command, humiliation became theater. Beneath the roar of dying gladiators, he destroyed lives with a smile. No vow or sanctity survived his whims. When he stole the bride of a nobleman, married her for a day, then cast her aside, Rome understood that nothing was sacred. Fear became Rome's heartbeat. The Praetorian Guard enforced his madness, informants filled the air with suspicion, and senators who once ruled legions now bowed like slaves. The people cheered without joy, trapped in the shadow of a living god who turned into a monster. For 4 years, the empire endured his nightmare, paralyzed by terror. But tyranny always cracks from within. Among the Praetorian Guard, resentment simmered. The same soldiers who once served his cruelty began to whisper. Cassius Chaerea, a veteran mocked daily for his voice, found the courage that Rome had lost. In January 41 AD, as Caligula walked through a palace corridor, daggers flashed. The god-king fell bleeding on marble, slain by his own protectors. His death ended the nightmare but not the wound. Rome had survived, yet its soul was scarred. The empire learned that fear could enslave even its masters, and that a crown without restraint could turn divinity into madness.